get to those. We'll get to those. This is good.
She was looking around for some assistant coaches, and she approached me, and I said I was very interested in it, and I'm married to Heidi, and that'll be.
They had a relationship.
They had a relationship,
and
Judy said that's not a problem. I'm really interested in you because she had.
See, this is what we call a teaser, people. Why would she have to say that's not a problem unless at some point there was a problem? Welcome to the Stick the Landing podcast, brought to you by Iron Business Solutions. We've got stories to tell and solutions to deliver for your business. Today's episode is titled, What Potential Gymnastics Business Owners Need to Know. Today, I'm mixing it up a bit by having two guests, and my guests are two of my longest friends. Both were successful NCAA gymnasts, have produced national elites. They own Sonshine Gymnastics in Holly Springs, North Carolina. Milan and Heidi Stanovich. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Milan, you and I met some 30 years ago at a gym in Tennessee called Let It Shine Gymnastics. We worked together about a year after that, maybe a little more, and I got to meet her too. Instead of starting where we met, we're going to come back to that in a little bit.
All right.
And what I want to do is I want to start at the point where both of us left Let It Shine. You left for the University of Florida, and I was in my boss's office and let my emotions get the best of me in a conversation that we were having. And I stood up out of my chair, stuck my finger in his face, and said, I'm opening a gym in Murfreesboro. Walked out of his office, slammed the door where my wife was at the front desk, working the front desk for Let It Shine, stuck my finger in her face and said, we're opening a gym in Murfreesboro. She was 4 months pregnant at the time. We were intending eventually to open our own gymnastics gym, which meant we had a small savings of $17,000 for that purpose.
Right.
But $17,000 isn't a lot of money when you're 27 or so years old, 4 months pregnant. So we go ahead and do this. 3 months later, I open a gym. Our lease expired in our apartment, and we didn't want to keep paying rent. So we moved into the gym that did not have showers or a kitchen. I had a microwave. We were buying our meals one meal at a time at Kroger. We were going to the local sports com and pretending that we were going to swim in the pool, paying the $2 so that we could take a shower every day. And I took a job at CC's Pizza to make my pregnant wife feel like, hey, we at least have some money coming in case this whole gymnastics thing didn't go. Little did I know that 20-something years later, I'd own 3 gyms with over 4,000 students, and we'd have all the success that we're having. So 3 years or so into me owning that gym, you guys leave the University of Florida where you were coaching, right? You have 2 small boys at that time, and you head out to a little tiny, just growing town, Holly Springs, North Carolina, and say, I'm going to open a gym. I need you to tell me what prompted you to leave Florida. Why did you choose Holly Springs, which turned out to be just a brilliant decision? And then tell us a little bit about opening a tiny little gym in an industrial area. Walk me through all of that.
Well, we spent 3 years at the University of Florida, and when we got there, they had just placed second in NC2As, and 2 of their assistant coaches left, and a lot of graduations, and the head coach, Judy Markell.
Which we have ties to from previously, and we'll get to those. This is good.
She was looking around for some assistant coaches, and she approached me, and I said I was very interested in it, and I'm married to Heidi, and that'll be.
They had a relationship.
They had a relationship,
and
Judy said that's not a problem. I'm really interested in you because she had.
See, this is what we call a teaser, people. Why would she have to say that's not a problem unless at some point there was a problem?
And Judy had recruited 2 of my gymnasts. One when she was at Penn State, and another one when she was at Florida. So I was very familiar with Judy, and she had recruited some of my kids when I was in Virginia. So I took the job, and first year at Florida, we didn't make nationals. We had some individuals. That was kind of tough.
So they were runners up the year before you got there.
Yeah.
You got there, and
I mean,
we didn't even make
my
the Super
first year
Six.
coaching college, and we did some revamping over the summer, and we had some ridiculous bar dismounts. And I said, this is ridiculous. We're going to change this. So we started over the summer working with some kids and got better. And I think the next year we were maybe 7th at nationals.
So wait, I thought they only took 6 back then. I could be wrong. Wasn't it called the Super Six or
Super
whatever?
Six.
But you still qualified it. Okay, you just
to
didn't make the
nationals.
Super Six.
We didn't make
okay.
the Super Six.
So that was an improvement from the year before
Yeah.
because they didn't even make the nationals. So you
Yeah.
guys, okay, all right.
I think
all
we were
right,
getting better. And the next year we didn't make the Super Six. We're kind of in that same slot. And the athletic director, I'm not sure exactly what reasons or whatever, but he decided to make a change at the head coach.
Yeah.
And I remember kind of putting my, hat in the ring maybe for the position. And I had some support from the athletes who
They loved him.
yeah, I was, the gym guy, and I would, work with them and get them better, and had a good relationship with the kids. And but I didn't get the job. They hired Rhonda Fain, who I think was a great choice for them.
Obviously,
she
didn't
did
they
an
win a couple
awesome.
of titles under her?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she did a great job at the program. Got
We
it going,
got fired.
but
we
she did
got
not want to
fired.
retain me. And
I wasn't
Cut to
going to
the
say
chase,
it.
we
I wasn't
got-
going to
but she
say
didn't want to
it.
retain me, and she said, "Hey, I hate telling you this because I've known Rhonda a little bit through the gymnastic world."
Sure.
And she goes, I had a friend that got a head coaching position. He said the worst thing he ever did was to keep on the old staff because of the authority. When you come in, you're the head coach, you're the authority. You bring in your assistants who are underneath you, and it's established. And she says, I just can't keep you.
Dang it.
And we were like, okay. And the University of Florida gave me some severance. I think it was maybe 6 months of severance.
Okay.
They treated us well. It was, kind of like, okay, what do we do now? And so Heidi and I said, I want to get back to owning a gym where, you don't get fired and you have some control over your life. And so we started researching where to go.
You're listening to Stick the Landing podcast by Iron Business Solutions. How would you like to have Tom Forrester or Mary Lee Tracy for one-on-one private sessions as your team mentor? Check out the Iron Business Solutions Gold Medal Team Package on the web for more information. Link in the description.
My turn.
Her turn.
Oh, she's got some stuff to say. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
I will talk faster. I know. I can't. Okay. So we picked either Charleston or Raleigh.
Yep.
We really want to go to Charleston. And
Charleston, South Carolina.
that was our
Yeah.
number one.
I wanted to find, the right location with
This
a lot
is
of
where we're going.
homes, kids, affordable rental because you're starting with, renting a space. I wanted a certain amount of space, 4 to 6,000 square feet.
Yeah.
I wanted to keep
Wait,
the.
remember, it's her turn.
I know.
All right. So
Go ahead.
Charleston and
Goodness. So we're going to Charleston, and he knew his numbers. He knew what he needed to do. He knew what kind of rent he needed, and we could not find it. We looked all over, and maybe we should have stayed longer, but it was like it was fairly slammed door. So then we go to Raleigh, and it's our second choice. We're good at this, and he goes, and we had this little population map.
We were talking to some realtors.
Yeah, and we had this back when people had physical maps. I still have the map. It's like a memento. And it had pink for high population.
Memento. Isn't that the thing in the middle of an olive?
Yep.
No, it's
Just kidding. Go
memento.
on. Yes.
So it went Raleigh, big population. Cary, pretty big population. Apex, decent population. And then Holly Springs, this little population. And we just kind of drew a line and said,
The population's
it.
moving in that direction.
it's going this
So it was
way.
anticipatory because you knew the population wasn't there yet.
We
So
also-
rents were going to be
Right.
affordable, properties were going to be affordable.
Plus
but
on the
likely,
map,
Mhm.
we put where there's already existing gyms, and I really did not
Mark
want to
Stevenson
go.
helped us from NC State.
Yeah, I didn't really want to go and be right next to somebody.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's competition. Plus, it's hurting them, and I
Yeah.
did not want to hurt other gyms by doing my gym.
So when I opened in Murfreesboro, there was already a gymnastics gym in town. And I would not have opened the gym unless I felt that there were enough people that both gyms could thrive, not survive, but thrive. And certainly I did not want to open and have to compete where only one gym was going to survive this mess. And it worked out. So it sounds like you guys had a similar attitude.
Yeah.
Talk to me maybe about, because I know Milan had much earlier in his life, and we're going to talk about that too, had a partnership with his mother and sister in a gym in Virginia. Plus, he had a small rec gym in Virginia. So he had a nest egg of sorts, but you had two little ones. And you'd never lived in North Carolina before. You were starting from scratch. Walk me through, like, was this scary? How did you navigate that?
I don't know about scary. It was like a challenge. I mean, it's almost like this is what we're doing.
Well,
And-
sure.
and-
Like
and
you
don't-
and me, like I didn't, oh, Jen's 7 months pregnant. Well, and next month she'll be 8 months pregnant. Whatever. I'll just open a
I
gym.
mean-
I can do it.
So,
But she's the woman and had the
yeah.
kids and is in charge. So you tell me.
So what we did was when we were in Florida, we had an income coming in from the sale of the little rec gym.
Yeah.
in
Oh,
Virginia.
that's right.
And
That's
so
right.
so we took.
They didn't give you a lump sum. They were
No,
making
monthly
payments, like owner
payments.
finance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Right,
Good.
we owner
Good.
fin-
Good.
Exactly. So we took a portion of that every time and tried to live off most of our Florida salary, and then we would put a chunk of money into the house.
So you're paying it down.
So we paid the house way down where it was ridiculously low mortgage.
And you guys behave much like Jen and I. Like, you're not carrying balances on credit cards.
No.
You're paying cash for cars and
Right.
whatever. You're like I'm a big Dave Ramsey guy.
Yeah.
I'm not into debt and whatever. So this enabled you guys to do this, and for you to have some peace of mind when you're a mom with two young kids to go ahead and move. Plus, I mean, again, you two, for lack of better words here, we're both like super experienced with gymnastics.
mean-
It's not like you were brand new and trying to figure it
No,
out.
going
okay.
going in, I
Sure.
know. I mean, we really looked at the area where we're going to put our gym, and there were nothing but homes and schools being built. And then we
Right.
found a little rental place, like 4,000 square feet. At the most, it was going to be $3,300, and I go, I can handle that.
Yeah.
And the guy gave us a deal, so I said, hey, we don't have any students. I started with 50 students, and I go, I don't have any students, but if you can bring the rent down, and then I forget how many months, just
Yep.
increase it,
Yep.
increase it. So after a year, we'll be at $3,300, and I think we'll be fine because the landlord wants us to succeed,
Right.
obviously.
So doesn't
So
have to chase people for
Yeah.
their rent.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so we started. We had 50 students, and it just kept on growing every year, and the town started growing too, so that
Yeah.
helped too.
But we bought a smaller house than we wanted. There was this very nice golf course community, and we wanted to live there. We did not. So we couldn't afford it. We took the chunk of money from the Florida house, brought it to Raleigh, Holly Springs, and bought a smaller house than we wanted to be
Tons
in.
of wisdom, living below your means
Right.
to ensure that this was going to work out. I'm calling this episode what potential gym owners need to know, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about a few things that we got right when we first opened, whether it was accidental or like purposeful. And for me, it was my first go around. So some of the things I got right were accidental. And for you, it was your second go around. I'll go over 3 things
Okay.
that I got right. The first thing is, and I know you and I agree on this because we talk all the time about it, is, and when I'll have people that'll come to me and say, hey, I'm thinking of starting a gym. What do I need to know? And the very first thing I tell them all the time is don't have a partner unless you're married. And I say that there are 3 reasons why you don't have a partner. The easy one is what happens if there's a divorce? Then your partner's partner owns half of the gym overnight. What do you do with team? Because inevitably, when you're a partnership, one person is a team, is like a coach, and the other person's like hey, let's make money, and the team loses money hand over fist,
Yep.
right? And so there's arguments about that. And then here's the really important one. I think the best partners fall into 2 categories. If you're going to have a successful partnership, you need one person that I call a digger of holes, and one person who's a visionary. And what the visionary does is they come up with an idea and they go, hey, I need a hole here and a hole here and a hole here. And that hole placement leads to the success of the business. And the digger is the guy that grabs the shovel as soon as the visionary points and starts digging and breaks his back. And sooner or later, each of those people resents the other because the visionary goes, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm splitting the profits with this guy. All he's doing is digging a hole. I can pay any fool $10 an hour to dig a hole. But the reality of that is, no, you can't.
Yep.
Because if we could just pay anybody $10, $15 an hour to coach great classes, we would. But they don't grow on trees, right?
Yep.
Your truly special partner, the real diggers, are worth their share of the partnership. But then the digger guy is breaking his back digging those holes. And he goes, I don't need that fool. He's just pointing and telling me to dig. But the reality is he does. He needs the visionary to know where to dig. So when they create a successful partnership, it's because one has the vision and the other digs the holes. The people that have above average abilities at both of those things are the people that succeed like on their own. Like I think I never needed to because Jennifer is like this too. We're both equal parts visionary and digger. We're both willing to go break our backs and dig as many holes as we need to. And we're both visionaries like, hey, a hole needs to go here and a hole needs to go here. But I could own a successful gymnastics gym by myself without her, and she could own a successful gymnastics gym without me for the same reasons. So no resentment because we're married. All right, the next things I say are don't borrow money to start your business. And I say that because what is peace of mind worth? And for Jen and I, again, we only had $17,000 and we started what is now a multi-million dollar gymnastics empire on $17,000. That's pretty good ROI, by the way. But what it meant for us to not borrow money to do that is at any moment, if it wasn't working out, I could quit, go get a job coaching gymnastics, because I'm a decent coach, at anybody's gym anywhere in the United States and earn a living and not have to worry about how I'm going to pay all this stuff back, go into bankruptcy, blah, blah, blah. So don't borrow, don't have a partner, don't borrow money. And then you guys remember the old movie Field of Dreams?
Yep.
Yes.
The ghost kept whispering, you know, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that in gymnastics. If I build this massive facility, they'll fill it up. The heck they will, man. My competition in the area had built a 20,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility when I was still in 7,200 square feet in the hood with 1980s equipment. And we had 200 more students than they had. And parents would walk in our gym and go, wow, this place is amazing. And gymnastics people knew better. Like coaches would, when you guys came into the gym and would do clinics for my teen kids, you're going, how the heck you teach team? And you don't even have an 8-incher. What's the matter with you? But like regular people didn't. And so we had all that peace of mind. You're listening to Stick the Landing podcast by Iron Business Solutions. As a gymnastics club owner, do you set your tuition according to what your competition in the area is charging? Do you wish your program generated more revenue so you could afford to pay you and your staff what you're worth? We have a tuition calculator package that for less than $500 will do a full market analysis, give you your low tolerance, high tolerance, and sweet spot for your tuition, as well as a plan including marketing materials to get your tuition up to market tolerance. Adjust your tuition to charge what you're worth confidently thanks to the tuition calculator package. Check us out on the web for more information. Link in the description. Milan, what were a few things, Heidi, a few things that you guys either accidentally did well when you first started or kind of knew already and brought to the table and did well that these new people need to hear about?
I mean, I think location is a big deal. You research the area.
So you shouldn't just stick your finger in your boss's face and randomly say a town and do it because I got lucky.
I mean, we looked at an area, and back then, I'm sure there was some information you can find. Nowadays, with all the internet, you can look up the population and the growth and all the information. But
for the people listening, a really fantastic website to do all that on is called areavibes.com. Check it out.
And so it just drove the area, and like I said before, there was elementary schools being built. I mean, 2 in the town, and then they had a high school that's in the plans, and it was just. To me, it just felt like, man, this feels right.
A lot of starter homes.
and then finding a lease that is manageable and not over your head. When I hear, somebody has $20,000 for their rent, and I go, how do you make it? I don't understand how you make it. When we were talking $3,300, and my initial goal was to within 3 years, I wanted to find land and put up a building.
Yeah.
That was
just about to talk about that.
That's what I wanted to do, but we had to start with 50 students. Sorry, and so I started 50 students, and by 3 years, we were up to 400 students in this small, nothing little, 4,000 square foot place. And a lot of the equipment in it I got from the colleges.
Yep.
I went to University of Florida.
Well, you learned that trick from me.
Yeah,
because when you were working for the University of Florida,
they had throwaway stuff.
Yeah, because they're a
They have a
state
budget.
organization and they get a budget, and if they don't spend the money, they don't get the money next year. So they had literally storage units full of stuff. And so you put me in touch with, was Foley in charge when you were
The
there?
athletic director.
Yes.
Foley
Yeah,
was there.
yeah. You put
Foley.
me in charge or in touch with Jeremy Foley, and I said, "Hey, I hear you've got a couple of storage units full of gymnastics equipment.
Yeah.
Can I give you a couple $1,000s and take it?" And he said, literally, "Wait, you're going to give me money and take that stuff out of storage?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Bring $2,000 in a U-Haul," and like a week later or whatever,
Yeah.
there I was.
So I got some equipment from Florida, and Jay Clark was at Georgia,
Georgia at the
and
time.
he gave me some equipment and enough, and I purchased a little bit, not much, and so we got it going. And actually, a friend, Jim Rowe, out of Richmond, he was at Richmond not Olympiad at that time; it was international. But he said, "Hey, I got some equipment. I just storing. You can have Milan. I've known him for years." So kind of put together a little gym. Got it going.
So you didn't go out and buy brand new state-of-the-art equipment. It's another way that you were frugal to get things started. And every piece of equipment that you purchased, even though it was used or whatever, was still highly functional for
That's
what you
fine.
need for recreational gymnastics, which is where we make the money. So you brought up a really good point that I want our viewers or listeners to hear about. And one thing that both of us understood prior to opening our gyms is the way to build what I call generational wealth is through business real estate. And I don't just mean commercial real estate. I mean a shared relationship between our business and real estate.
Yeah.
And what I think young gym owners should understand is that, like Ken Harris and my wife, Jennifer, we have an LLC that owns all of our commercial properties. And then ETC Gymnastics pays rent to the commercial properties. And we save 7.5% on FICA by doing that. So as a simple thing for people to understand when they're getting ready to go into this, if you pay an employee, and yourself can be an employee, $1,000, let's say based on that $1,000, they're in a 20% income tax bracket. So you have to withhold $200 from their paycheck. They get $800. You take that $200 and you send it to the federal government. And you send another about $75 because it's about 7.5% in what's called FICA. And that's their Social Security and Medicare match that you have to put in there. So I don't have to send that money, FICA, on rent I collect, but I do on my salary. So I can lower my salary at the gym. And people, I'm not an accountant. Check with your accountant and your attorney. But I can lower my salary to what is considered an industry norm for the role I'm playing. So if I'm the head coach at the gym, I can lower my salary below like owner salary to head coach salary and make up all the difference in rent. And I get that if I made $100,000 that year, an extra $7,500 went in my pocket because I didn't pay the FICA on there. Plus, you're paying down a mortgage that is, first of all, the property is appreciating the whole time and becoming worth more, which becomes an asset that you can leverage for more properties, right? Rather than having to put cash down. We just built another $4 million building, and I didn't have to put a single penny down. I just went to the bank and said, "Hey, I've got this $6 million building over here that I owe less than $500,000 on. Can I use that as collateral to build this $4 million?" And they said, "Of course, let's go."
Yeah.
And the reason I call it generational wealth is because these are things I can pass on to the children. If the kids never want to own or operate a gymnastics business, and by the way, both of us have kids that want to, so
Right.
whatever. But if they'd still have
Yeah.
this land and this building that they could sell and quite
Yeah.
honestly be rich. Now,
Mhm.
don't kill us, kids. All right, so why don't since we just shared some things that we both did well when we first opened, did you have any things like when you first opened, you kind of go, I didn't do this so well. If I could go back knowing what I know now, I would do this slightly different when you first opened.
Just my leased area or the 4,000 square foot space. There's not a lot of choices. It wasn't like
Yeah.
you have, oh, should I this or should I that? You have bare bones equipment. I have 50 students. There's not much more to that. You just start teaching your students, and then you're the front desk, you're cleaning the toilets, you're doing everything. And then you go, okay, I need to find one employee because I can have 2 classes that hour
Yeah.
instead of one.
I can
And
go
then,
from 50 students to 100.
yeah, by just
Mhm.
finding somebody. And, so we started hiring some
That
people.
wasn't a mistake.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that
was a
doesn't sound
good
like a
thing.
No,
mistake.
it's not a mistake. I'm just saying there's
Yeah.
not a lot of mistakes to make because
yeah.
there's
Oh.
not much
Well,
involved with just a basic bare bones besides what you went over, like not borrowing or getting
Yeah,
brand new
yeah, yeah, yeah.
equipment and just saying,
I don't think you mentioned, but one of the big deals was I'm not having a team. And
Well,
I kept saying you should have a team. You're
I
bored.
started.
And
I started just
but
with
that's not a negative thing. That was
there's
a
no
smart thing.
there's no team, and there was parents find you. There was people coming over wanted to, hey, they've heard of me or whatever happened, and they're coming over wanted to
they
do private
come in the
lessons.
gym every time, and you're like, "Do you know who I am?"
So they're
Right.
wanted private lessons. Are you going to coach my kid? And we didn't have the facilities really to do very much. But I go, I don't want to do team. We're just trying to develop our business, and
It's that
I
whole
really
thing
did
we
not
talked-
want to do team at all.
It's
Yeah.
that whole thing that we talked about, how, the cart and the horse. So the team is the cart, and the horse pulls the team, and the horse is the recreational program.
Yep, sure is.
And so that's your workhorse, is your recreational program, and that is a different thing that he did from when he was in Virginia.
Yeah.
He was team centered.
Yeah.
And it was a natural thing in our gym. We got to 400 students, and we ended up buying land and putting up a building. But what the staff that started coming to me is like, wow, you're a better preschool coach than I am. Do the preschool. You're a better rec coach than I am because I'm a team coach. I can
Yeah.
do those other things, which I did for a few years. But there's some people that can do it a lot better than me, and they're very
Yeah,
good at it.
I've seen you coach. rec.
And
There's a lot of people that do it better.
so I started replacing myself with people, and I'm sitting there going, I'm not coaching very much. I have a gym.
Yep.
I'm not coaching, and I have an ability to,
Yeah.
coach higher level gymnastics. So that's when we started.
And
our
on
team.
this, there are very few people that do it better than you.
Well, I don't know about that, but
And I
it's
wasn't
true.
coaching at all. Like when he was doing this whole
Well, yeah, your kids were like 2 and 4 or 3 and
Right.
5 or something. Yeah,
So I
you were a
made a
little busy.
decision. Well, I made a decision. I said, I'm not coaching. I'm going to raise my kids. And so I sat home and he did the whole thing by himself. There were some scary nights when he was like gluing foam blocks to the
yeah.
bottom of those
Oh, I remember
plywoods.
that.
And it was freezing
the
out. It
heat
was
wasn't
right
on in the
after-
facility.
There was no heat. So he brings in a generator heater.
Yep.
Or-
You
or
know those
a-
like rocket
It's a
engine
gas
It's
heaters?
powered.
kerosene or propane or
Yeah.
something like that.
and then-
Yep.
And then
Yep.
he's like, it's too cold. So he shuts the garage door. And I'm going, he's going to asphyxiate.
And the fumes.
Yes,
Yeah.
the fumes, and that's how people die. And so I was flipping out. And
I
I
was
wasn't
trying to
answering his
glue
cell phone.
Glue the foam blocks and
Building
So,
your
like,
own
building-
spring
yeah.
4
floor out of
o'clock in
foam
the
blocks and
morning.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yep.
4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
And he's
just
not
had to-
answering. And I'm thinking he's dead.
And
He's
you
dead
know
on
what?
the
This
floor.
brings up a great point, and we talked about this at dinner last night because your son joined us at dinner, and he was asking me some questions and whatever. And one of the things I said is, because he asked, would I rather buy somebody else's current business or start from scratch? And my answer was essentially, at my age, I want to buy somebody else's business because I can't do
yeah.
what it takes to
That,
start from scratch,
right.
which was that. I said, but at your age, and Scotty's 25?
4.
24. Okay. Yeah, at that age, you have so much more sweat equity, sort of sweat capital, if you will, than you have actual capital. And so starting from scratch, you can do those things. You go in, you take the foam, you cut it up yourself, you glue it to the bottom of plywood, and you make a spring floor.
And one of my beliefs is, if you're young, start with the 50 students, start running the desk, start cleaning the toilets, start teaching every class.
Yes.
You do it. And then, so when it eventually gets to, a successful, bigger gym, you've done every role in the gym that you're hiring people to do. So you're an authority in all those positions. And if you come in at a super successful gym and you take it over, everybody's looking at you. You didn't build this. You didn't do this. You didn't do that.
And
So
actually, I did.
it doesn't mean it can't happen on, buying a successful gym or whatever. But usually you're not buying successful gyms anyways.
Right.
But,
those aren't usually
not
for
for
sale.
sale.
Or if they are, they're going to cost you.
Cost you a lot.
And a young person can't
but a
afford
young
it.
person needs to do it from the beginning so they appreciate, when
And
it does
understand.
get
And they know everything.
Yes.
Exactly.
Because you have to learn, man.
Yeah.
Sunshine was your second go around for
Yes.
gym ownership and we'll get into all that in a little bit. But you and I worked at Let It Shine for
Let
a
It
little
Shine.
while.
Yep.
And you said in our pre-Zoom conference for this thing, you said that your eyes were opened when you were there. Give us a couple of takeaways
Well,
because I have some too.
yeah. When I just got out of college, and I think we'll talk about college, but I had an opportunity to buy a gym, and I was just young. I didn't have family. I didn't have any big needs. I mean, I made some money because I had a gym that had 350 kids in it, but my main focus was team.
Yeah.
And I wanted to achieve in the, team gymnastics and have elite gymnasts and international and do all that type of stuff. That's what I wanted to do. And that was my focus. And that's what I did for the next 13 years. And, I had a little rec gym and it grew into another gym and there was a third gym.
So tell us, how were your eyes opened at Let It Shine?
So I go to Let It Shine and I just met Tim Richards, who owned Let It Shine, and he knew of me through coaching and he was interested in me working with the team, and I didn't really want to work with the team initially. So I taught classes.
Sucky Milan came in and ruined it for everybody.
So I just taught some classes and observed. And it was being a non-owner, I'm just here to help and I'm just looking around and seeing what Tim created. And it was an amazing amount of classes.
It was a
parents'
recreational
night out.
empire.
And
Yes.
It was
And,
amazing.
I was going to say recreational paradise, but I like your word,
We
empire.
called it the fun gym.
fun gym.
Yeah.
They're coaching, I think it was level 6 beam, which is maybe is level 7 or 8, but it was one of their higher levels at the time. We were just getting going. And I'm doing beam, and these purple foam darts are flying past my balance beams. My kids are doing, back walkovers, maybe a back handspring, and there's foam darts. And I'm like, this is crazy. But it was a gym that knew how to have fun, knew how to grow recreational enthusiasm, excitement. The coaches were
because
upbeat.
USA Gymnastics thinks, okay, we hand out these levels like level 1, 2, and 3, and they think this is what you should be teaching in your rec class. Yeah, well, I'd have about 14 students if I did that because this is boring as crap, and 1 hour a week you're not going to learn it. I think, like you guys, I was blown away with the recreational empire at Let It Shine. They really understand how to do things, and I sort of put together 3 takeaways that I had, and I obviously had a lot more, but these are 3 important ones that I want the viewers or listeners to hear. First, I took away that having organized rotations for each class, rotating at designated times so you can maximize your students per hour. Like, this is all about logistics. I showed up to every gym I ever worked in before Let It Shine was like, okay, you teach the 4 o'clock girls rec class. Great. I go out there, I warm up the class, and I go, well, I guess we're going to go to beam. And I stayed at beam until I was done, and then went to bars until I was done. And
Well, in Virginia, it was like, what do we do? And I go,
stay out
I
of
don't
team's
really
way.
care as long as you stay out of my way.
Right.
Yeah.
So you guys go over there and do your rec thing, and we're over here doing gymnastics.
And, it was
and that
kind
was
of a
my,
respect issue.
I mean, I said it
not
nicely, but it
realizing.
wasn't
Sure.
like, I wasn't really concerned.
Yeah, in your head, you were like, I'm gonna have rec because I have to,
As
and I'm
part
gonna
of
do team
it,
because
yeah.
this is the deal. So being able to organize and plan so that at whatever minute, like right now, I have 50-minute recreational classes at my gym, so it goes 13-minute warm up, and then it's like 12-minute first rotation, 13-minute second rotation, 12-minute third rotation, and then
Yep.
we're out of there.
Out the door.
Yep.
And those are basics that from Let It Shine or over the
Right.
years or
Yep.
yourself, you have to have. And there's some people that still probably
And
don't do
as
it.
a result, literally, my Murfreesboro gym, like at spring peak time, we'll have 2,000 kids running around 18,000 square feet.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So the other thing I took away from there is special events. Nobody does special events the way Let It Shine.
No.
Birthday parties, parents' night out, camp, clinic, back handspring, like whatever. Like
Like clinic. Or, yeah.
every week, there's some kind of special event aside from parents' night out,
Yes.
whatever, going on in that gym, and they're all spectacular. And then we talked about this at breakfast today, that we sort of feel like we worked at Let It Shine during the golden era of the staff because we were all close. We all
Yeah.
did stuff together. We all hung out. We were good friends. We all went to each other's weddings, and not like coworkers go to a wedding to get out of work. Like we were authentically excited for one another. Because at that time, like before I got married, you and I were roommates.
Yeah.
You literally had to move out because my wife was moving in. So anyway, the staff all hung out, and what I learned sort of is that a staff that plays together stays together, and I wanted to recreate that type of culture in my staff at ETC, and it has panned out. Our industry isn't one that ordinarily is going to be able to afford to pay people huge salaries. People are generally not across the board. We have some gyms like we talked about. I've got a couple of employees that make six figures for me. But that's not normal in the gymnastics world. Typically, we get people that do this because they love it.
Yeah.
Right.
And if we can foster or increase their love for it by creating a work environment that doesn't feel like work,
Mhm.
I can keep those people longer. And that was something I learned at Let It Shine. And I don't know if Tim was doing it on purpose or not doing it on purpose. There had to be some intentionality there. I don't think he tried as hard as I try, but certainly he was getting,
Yeah.
he didn't have to try as hard as I have to try for us to have enjoyed.
It was a
Like,
great group of people.
Yeah, we're still friends with those
Well,
people
a lot of
30 years
people.
later.
And I also think, Let It Shine is a Christian gym.
Yeah.
And he had prayer requests. And I was a newer Christian at the time, and praying in front of people is kind of weird, but I had all these kids, and you had to do his prayer requests. And that was great. And I don't
Devotions.
want to diminish if you have, God in your gym and with your staff. It
Yeah.
brings everybody together too.
Mhm.
And that was something that was new for me at the time at Let It Shine when, all the classes had a little devotional and everything like that. And I thought that was different because I
Right.
came from the North where you didn't have that.
Yeah.
So it was very different. And I look back and I go, that was special. And that could have bonded the staff, which I'm sure it did, with something else besides gymnastics too.
Right.
Sure. And for the viewers or listeners that don't know, ETC Gymnastics stands for Everything Through Christ from Philippians 4:13, which says I can do everything through Christ, which strengthens me. And Sonshine Gymnastics is not SUN, it's SON, and it comes from Isaiah 60.
60:19.
Okay, 60:19.
And people think because we had three sons, it was Sonshine
Everybody
Gymnastics.
has. So it's your sons, right?
Yeah.
No,
No,
it's the son.
Son. of
Yeah.
God.
So,
Yeah.
and Heidi picked that out. She had looked through, a bunch of scripture, and she just prayed
I tried
on
to
it
pick
and
one
looked at
that
it.
wasn't overused. That's why it's in Isaiah.
Sure.
Because nobody knows this verse. So yeah.
All right, so I'm going to shift gears a little bit.
All right.
And I want to help our audience get to know who you guys are because we're sitting here. We've probably already made 14 or 15 inside jokes that the listeners are going, why are they laughing?
Yeah.
And they need to know, why should they even listen to you two guys? So let's start to talk about maybe some of those stories I promised at the beginning of this episode that we deliver here. And let's start with each of you, how you got involved in gymnastics and some gymnastics sort of career highlights. I want to start with Milan.
All right.
And tell us how you got involved in gymnastics in the first place as an athlete, and what were some of your accomplishments prior to college?
Well, my mother opened up a gym in Northern Virginia, 1973, right after the Olga Corbett Olympics. And she had some dance background, and a little bit of gymnastic background. And she says, I'm going to open up a gymnastics school. It was the first one in the area. And she did. So I kind of grew up in a gym.
Yeah.
And I was doing other sports. She would always make sure I got to the football and the baseball and the basketball and all that type of stuff. But I was always in the gym playing around. And when I got
Gym
to
rat.
when I got
She's a
to
gym rat.
high school, I was at a high school, didn't have a gymnastics team, so I was the only one.
She keeps saying gym rat. I want to say something about that because it's kind of foreshadowing. I have an episode coming up, and I can't believe I'm doing this, but episode number 7, it might be 8, is going to be my kids.
Yeah.
And they're going to sit over there and they're going to be honest. And they're going to say, because I ended up having to coach both of them at points. I had to be the head coach for Mackenzie, which was harder, and just an assistant coach for Hunter. So they grew up on a gym because Jen and I were working 60, 65 hours a week. So they grew up with parents that were in the gym all the time. They grew up with parents as their coaches. And they're going to share for all of you, like mistakes I made, things that were charming about their childhood. Well, I have this podcast to help people.
Yeah.
And if I can help them not make the same mistakes I
yeah.
made. So anyway, you were a gym rat.
Yeah.
You get to high school, had a team.
My freshman year, I was at a school that didn't have a gymnastics team.
And you're like, I got to get out of here.
I'm the only one there, and I went to state, and I think I won floor or something like that without really being trained. And I go, I'm pretty good at this. And I was a little smaller at the time, and I was a baseball pitcher, but I couldn't, I was 5-something, and everybody else is bigger. And I go, I'm pretty good at this gymnastics. So I transferred school to a school that had a gymnastic coach and a team. And then I went from there throughout high school doing well. And then might have been my sophomore year, there was a coach, his name was Fred Rodney. He was a club coach. He was a Canadian gymnast, went to University of Michigan, competed for them. I don't know if he was a national team member for Canada, but he was.
Don't spoil all the good Jim Rodney stories because we've got some of those coming up. But,
so he took over my training in the non-high school time because high school gymnastics was.
So he would come work at your mom's gym?
Just training me. Private lessons for me. And then he kind of took over my training and kind of got me going in a good direction.
So your mom's gym didn't have a boys' team.
No,
it had Milan.
That was just me. And she would, she bought equipment for me, like I had a pommel horse and a high bar and all that, so I could do gymnastics. But there was, I think some of the high school guys from my high school.
Dude, you were one of those spoiled little kids. You had your own pommel horse and your own high bar. Jeez.
So he trained me.
I had to share.
And then, but I think we had some guys from my high school that would come over, but they were more seasonal. They weren't year round. And I think in my senior year, I probably won. I think I won the all around and 4 or 5. I don't know. It was the level
you
wasn't.
had a super successful.
Yeah, and I went into club and I went to
Tell
nationals.
about when you tried to do like a souk or
Well, that was
souk
before
full.
Fred. That was before Fred.
That was when he saw you and went, "This kid's a nightmare."
Yeah, I was chucking some skills.
It was bad.
Men's gymnastics had, in our area, they had the Maryland Open. It was like one invitational a year, and then you went to regionals, and then if you made nationals, that was like club, where I was from. There wasn't a lot of competition. And in my senior year, I finally made nationals. It was West Point was this big nationals, and they were all there. You had, Mitch Gaylord was from California.
Man. I
Chris
always thought he was a
Riegel
stud.
was
Didn't he do
there.
a movie like American Anthem?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the Haydens
Yeah,
were there, but
they
they were
own a
younger.
gym in Georgia.
They were younger. And I remember at that West Point meet, they were like class 2s or level 2s, and you had Hayden on one side, Hayden on the other side, Riegel in the middle. And that was the top 3. And they were great. They were great. And then
the Haydens, one of my teammates growing up, did gymnastics for like I can't remember, Western Michigan maybe.
Yeah.
But
I remember competing against
was
those guys.
better than like Western Michigan, but that's where he wanted to go. And when he was done, moved to Georgia to train with the Haydens because he wanted to make a push for I feel like Atlanta in '96 and didn't make it. I think because of ankle injuries. But all right, so let me get into you. Let's talk about Heidi. How did you get into gymnastics? Where did you start? Tell us a little bit, like just maybe a couple of highlights, because you were an elite and even got some international assignments. Don't blow too much, but tell us a little bit.
So I didn't know gymnastics was a sport. And so I would go to acrobatics class and do, bridge walks and a thing called a pretzel where you try and touch your head and your arch and put your feet up here. And
That's the technical name. It's in the code of points. It's a
It's the
B.
pretzel.
It's a B.
is it really?
Has your name with it.
No.
It says
It does
Heidi
not.
Anderson.
Oh my gosh.
And
The
it does
Anderson.
not. It does not. So anyway, I didn't know
The
gymnastics
pretzel
was
is a B.
sport. You're kidding me. You were joking?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, now I'm laughing at you, not
Okay,
with you.
whatever.
There
So-
used to be a C, but they brought it down to a B.
And that's my story. No, I'm kidding. So we went to a mall. I lived in Indiana, PA, where IUP is, and we went to a mall, and there was a team tumbling on panel mats at the mall, and I was 11 years old, which is really late to start. And I said, "What is that?" And just
That's like a
frozen.
really advanced pretzel.
Whatever. And so.
That's at least a tortilla chip.
So I said, we stayed after, we talked to the guy, and it was the Armstrong Evergreens
Yeah.
in Elderton,
Mm.
PA, and Erwin and Karen Olson was my coach. And I started out as
Wait, you need to drop some names because didn't some really
Yes,
high
yes,
profile
yes.
people come out
So
of there?
out of that same gym was myself, who ended up being a national team member.
Yep.
Linda Cardos Wood.
Yeah, she's Wood
who-
now, but Cardos at the time.
Yes.
Yep. And she
Um,
lives in Tennessee.
Yes, national team member. And Beverly Fry, who is now Bev Plotke, the head coach of
Head
Michigan.
coach at Michigan. Yep.
Same coach, all at the same
From
time.
this tiny little
Nothing
town
gym.
in Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
Or Indiana, right?
Elderton, PA. It's
PA.
confusing because it was Indiana, PA.
Okay.
So yeah. And so unfortunately, my dad got a job switch and ended up moving to Philadelphia, and we had to leave, and it was
Yeah.
sad. He was a good guy, and we moved to Manettes, and at the Manettes was Bill and Ginny Coco, who had 7 elites, and they were probably the best elite coach in the country at the time.
Wow.
And they made the decision to put the parents' organization in charge of their gym. I guess financially in charge, the whole shooting match.
Good idea.
Because all they wanted to do was coach.
Coach gymnastics.
You take care of everything
elites.
else, and I just want to coach the gymnastics.
And I mean,
guess. I
as
don't know.
a team gymnastics coach, I've never once had a problem with a parent or
Never.
anything like that. So I don't know why I didn't think of that. Except when we get to the end of the
Good
story.
use of sarcasm. And
Yeah.
so, anyway, what happened was Bill Coco went to the American Cup and saw with Ann Carr,
That
our
was
best
75,
gymnast.
wasn't it?
70, probably 75 or
That's
70.
when she went to, yeah.
So off we go. And he saw Nadia Comaneci, and she was
Mm.
little. And he said, "Oh my goodness, the future is in the youth. It's the little ones. We need to get them going." So he goes back to his gym, the Manettes, and picks a bunch of little kids, me being one of them. And the older class ones, which is level 10s,
Yep.
and their parents were like shocked. "What are you doing picking this little squad of not very good gymnasts? We're the good ones." And they were better than us. And they fired him.
Fired him from his own club.
Yes, fired him from his own club.
Unbelievable. So
We
he
picked up and left
and he ends up going to
a little gym called Philadelphia Freedoms, and we have to roll out the equipment at Chestnut Hill Academy in Philadelphia and roll it back every single day. We're working out in their gym. Roll out the bars, roll out the floor, everything. And he gets sick and tragically dies of cancer.
in a year.
I mean, we were there for very little time.
Yeah.
And my dad said to me, these young guys that are here are really good technicians, but they don't have the whole picture of how to raise a female gymnast. Like, where's the choreography now? Because Ginny was retired and she didn't want to do it without Bill. And so we made the difficult decision. We moved to Parkettes.
To Parkettes. Here we go.
And
Yep.
it was a fantastic move for me, of
Yep.
course.
We're going to tell some funny Parkette stories, but what I would like to hear from you is give me just a couple of accolades. You don't have to give the whole story behind it, but you had an accomplished elite career. You got a bunch of international assignments,
Mhm.
maybe won some things.
Okay, so my first year, so I went to Parkettes, and remember I started at 11,
Yeah.
and so I went class 3, which I don't know how that equates, And then my second year was
Seven.
Probably close to like 7. Yeah.
7.
yeah, class 1 was a level 10 my
Yep.
second year. My second year. And then my third year, it might have been 2 years at level 10, which is class
She's like
1.
the Heather Parker
Yeah.
story. Didn't
Really?
start. Yeah.
Yeah.
Except Heather didn't have as good a coach as you had. She
Well.
had me. Go ahead.
So off I go to Parkettes and boom, I'm an elite and I'm on the national team. I think I was 13th. Strangely enough, Linda Cardos and I were tied. I was
And
11th, 12th, or 13th. I can't remember.
and both of you guys on the national team together.
Yes.
Yep.
And then the second year,
And you were like first alternate to Worlds. What year?
you know
That was
what?
79.
I'm getting confused. I was 6th my second year, tied with Linda and Jackie Costello.
Okay.
And so because of that, I ended up going to Pan American Games and got a silver medal on floor.
Awesome.
And then went and was first alternate to World Championships in Fort Worth, Texas. I got to carry the horse. We had a stick horse, was our mascot. I carried
Nice.
the horse. I base scored on beam, did my little back tuck kick out. The judges didn't know what it was, what to do with it, but I did that. And then was put on a trip.
For my audience who aren't as gymnastically versed, especially in like history, she's talking about a back tuck kick out on beam, and it eventually got named the Anderson
for
because
about 6 years.
it nowadays people do it, and I argue, and it's not just because I'm your friend, I argue it's a completely different skill.
It is.
Because they do it almost like a very high back handspring
Correct.
and dive down, and you did 3/4 of a back
Which,
tuck.
of course, I disdain the new
And-
methodology.
Well, the thing that, I mean, she's not saying about herself was the rapid climb from being 11 to maybe 13 or 14 being an elite gymnast is very rapid. And was fearless. She was kind of a freak with gymnastics.
have
It
a
was
story
perfect
about
for
that.
her. I mean, she would do, hey, I'm going to do a front aerial on the low beam. I just nailed 5, 6, 10 of them, and she takes it up to the high beam. Nobody asking her, gets up there in the high beam and nails it because
Yep.
That is true.
I just did it on the low beam and I made every one. Why wouldn't I make it on the high beam? And that's her thinking. So that took her rapidly through the sport.
Don't we
where
wish we all coached athletes that
That's-
were
that
like
doesn't
that
happen.
mentally?
On some levels.
Yeah.
Then-
We're gonna get to
then-
some of those other levels.
Then you have the
It's my
cereal
turn.
box. It's not right, and you've got to
That's
you
enough.
got to turn it around. That's the other part of it.
Take your mic away.
All right.
Okay, so Pan Am's, and then I went to Chinichi Cup.
Yep.
And then
You were
Moscow
in
News
Moscow.
Meet,
Yep.
Moscow News Meet.
We're gonna
and
talk
the
about
Riga
that.
Invitational, and I ended up being national champion on floor and balance beam in '79. And the whole time, I didn't think I was very good. I didn't think I was that good. I don't know why. It's not that my coaches weren't telling me.
And
I don't know.
I'll say this about you too. We've known each other for 30 years, I think.
Mhm.
And you may intellectually think right now, yeah, I accept I was good,
Mhm.
but you rarely talk about it. We tell stories from the old days all the time, and you rarely bring it up. There's like some aspect of, and I hope, and knowing you, I believe it. I think there's an aspect of humility in there.
Yeah,
where-
it seems braggy. So
Yeah.
I don't know how to talk about it without seeming braggy.
Yeah, but
But I
you
gotta-
are an accomplished athlete is the
Mhm.
point. This is what I wanted the viewers to understand that,
Very much.
hey, you,
I want to say one thing about that back tuck kick out thing.
They told you no, didn't they?
Yeah. So what happened was I was working it on the low beam, and what I would do is I would tuck, kick, tuck. I
Yeah.
grabbed my tuck in the front,
about
and then-
3/4 of the way through,
kick. I would try to kick it horizontal, and then pew, straddle
what
the
she's
beam.
saying is yes, 3/4 of the way through her no-handed tucked back flip, she would kick her legs out straight and in a straddle, and then land on the beam in her crotch area in a
Okay.
straddle.
What was that meet where the guy came running out of the
Sports
stands?
festival, the National Sports Festival. A doctor kind of jumped up to help me because they thought I crashed. Because the way I did it was much more violent. The new one, what happened
It's
was
like a
because
swim down.
the reason it was
Yeah.
named
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's like a
it's
swim
a
down.
splashdown. It's a splashdown.
Yeah.
The reason it didn't stay under my name is because I did it in base score. I was the first
Yeah.
alternate.
At
So
Worlds,
since
yeah.
I base
Yeah.
scored at Worlds in Fort Worth, they named it after me. Then it disappeared because no
Yeah,
one
and then
else was
somebody,
crazy enough to do it.
Some
Okay.
Chinese girl.
And
did
6
it.
years later, Chinese gymnast named Chen did it where she would touch her elbows to her knees and then kick out high, diagonally high, and
and
splash
swing
down.
gently down. Yeah,
Much
and
more
it's pretty
controlled.
and like probably hurts a lot less.
But the reason I got it,
but
yeah,
you did it first. My friend was
dang it.
first. Give
But
her
the point
name.
is, Mrs. Strauss told me it was impossible
That's
because I wouldn't go for it.
there we go. It's over.
So I
tell
basically
her.
kept doing it onto the 8-incher with a higher low beam. So you would slap your legs on the 8, slap your legs on the 8, and that is how you learn it. But then eventually I had to go up. I picked the Spieth because it was the fuzzy Spieth. We all know what these are for coaches. Softer, fuzzy, easier
Yeah.
on the body. And I wouldn't go. I kept doing back tuck, back tuck. And she said, Anderson, you're not going to do it. It's too hard. Forget about it. And that was it. That was it.
Next
That's made me
turn.
do it. I went and I
Boom.
didn't know to do my hands like this. I did them like a back handspring, and I bent every one of
So
my
when she
fingers
says
backwards.
this, she's got her hands in what we would call the English position,
This
which
is
is the
English.
correct way. That's
Yeah.
you
But I
know,
thought
base
I'd
of your
split
palm
the
to ball.
beam and then on my face, so I did a back handspring,
Hand
and
one on
bent
top of the other.
all my fingers back, all of them.
All right, so let's keep going in your elite career because there's a story in the gymnastics verse.
Oh,
Yep, I'm dropping it on you. In the gymnastics verse, there's a story of Heidi Anderson, because that's your maiden name, getting her braces stuck. Quit shaking your head.
did not
Getting
happen.
her braces stuck in the carpet at an international meet because you landed on your face in a double tuck. And apparently every coach in the
Well,
universe
I've
was there. And
Well,
it was
No,
everybody says it's at a different meet.
I mean,
so clear it up.
Okay.
I mean, I've been around her, forever, and there's all these coaches
sorry
that
to hear
bring
that.
it, that bring
Oh
it
my
up, and they're
gosh.
all at different meets where this happened, and it's so funny. It's been at Pan Am's. It's been in
Yeah.
I don't know
so
where else
set
they
the
say.
record straight.
Okay, so
Where did your teeth get caught in the
they
carpet
did
because you
not.
landed on your
Okay,
face?
here's what actually
Here we
happened. So
go.
back then, I think it was like 78. I was just learning a double back. Spring floors were just getting invented, which made me
Yeah.
mad because I could do one on the wrestling mat. Um,
Nuts.
it evened the playing field, but we used to get spotted. We didn't have pits. And so Robin Netwall, who's a fantastic coach and is just retired, incidentally, she would spot me through my double back. And sometimes you'd use that hand to time you. And when they didn't spot you, it would mess you up. And so we were actually at the Albuquerque News Meet.
That's right.
That is where it happened. The Albuquerque
Albuquerque News Meet. All right.
hosted by Rusty
Where you notice she
Mitchell.
just said it happened, folks. That is where
Hey,
it happened. And I'm quoting her directly.
No. So here's what actually happened. So
All right.
Rusty
Set the record
Mitchell
straight.
was the host, and I warmed up my double back with a light spot, and then went in the meet, and I don't know what happened. It was a bad meet for everybody, but I punched, and it wasn't a good punch, and I landed on my face hard, and I wore braces. And so what actually happened was I landed so hard, I thought my teeth were loose. And so I stayed down there and reached up and wiggled my teeth to see if they were intact. And I said, if they're loose, I'm
This is
walking off.
bizarre.
This is true.
Yeah.
And I said, if they're loose, I'm going to walk off the floor because I'm injured. But if they're intact, I will get up and finish
I'm
this
fine.
routine.
What a standard. You landed on your face hard, and you're like,
Hard.
well, if my teeth aren't loose, you should have played in the NHL, right? You're as tough as a hockey player, for
That's
crying
too
out
small.
loud.
So anyway, they were
She thought
intact.
about it. She thought about it.
She thought about
Yeah,
it.
I figured.
You're listening to Stick the Landing podcast by Iron Business Solutions. Do you feel like you're alone and on an island because gymnastics businesses face unique challenges and you're throwing mud at a wall to see what sticks? How would you like to have Ken Harris or Tom Forrester in one-on-one private sessions as your business mentor? Check out the Iron Business Solutions Gold Medal Business Package on the web for more information. Link in the description.
And so that is what actually happened. And then John Holman took this story
Yeah.
and immediately started this vicious rumor about
Vicious
me.
rumor.
And I got my braces stuck in the car. And he actually said, that they were woven in and
They
that
were
they had to get
picking
a
blue fibers out of
scissors,
your...
and it just got bigger
We
and
see
bigger.
Jeff
It just
LaFleur
took
every year,
And
in
he's
all
sure
and
it
he's
happened
sure it happened at Pan
Pan Am's
American
because he was there
Games.
with me. It did not. But
Yeah.
what happens as we get old, Jeff, is that there's this
Hear
thing
that, Jeff
called,
LaFleur? You're old.
so am I. Um,
We're all
It's
old.
called confabulation. It's where an event happens and another event happens, and you combine them in your mind, and you swear that it's the case. And this was happening all over with all these coaches coming up to me and saying, I remember when we were at this meet and you got your braces caught in the carpeting, and I did not ever get
So
my braces
A,
caught.
it didn't happen
Yes,
at all. Your braces never got caught in the
they
carpet.
never did.
And the scenario that generated the story for sure happened in Albuquerque.
Albuquerque. Yep.
Yeah. All
Albuquerque
right.
News Meet, and John Holman, I don't know what the word is, propagated? Whatever. He started this whole
Sounds
thing.
like that's a good word for
Sounds
it.
like a good word.
So another great Heidi elite story. You were an elite literally at the peak of the Cold War.
Yes.
Soviet Union is the big bad Russians. Everybody in America hates them. They hate Americans. You get an assignment to Moscow,
Yes.
an international assignment to Moscow,
Mhm.
and smuggle in contraband.
Blue jeans.
Tell us about it.
So this was just a situation where we were so excited to go, and it was behind the Iron Curtain. And so my teammate Sandy Worth and I were both assigned there.
And you were how old?
I was probably 16.
I was going to say 15 or 16.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I think I might have been turning or was 16. So off we go to Moscow, and we both brought these little duffel bags full of our sister's old blue jeans, maybe our own, ripped up. You know, we thought they don't care. Maybe it's cool that they're ripped, and you know, the
They'll take these and they'll like it.
blue jeans were supposed to be like a cool thing in Russia, and so off we go with our duffel bags.
You're
And-
15 and
And
you're
I
like,
don't.
"They're bringing
with,
some
with
contraband."
the coaches.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so Mrs. Strauss goes with us, so
With
I
the
guess she's
coaches.
incriminated as well. So.
Oh, now I've never heard the version of the story that
Yeah,
Donna
yeah.
was
She
with
didn't
you
have any
guys.
jeans. She
I
just
thought you
escorted
two,
me.
as
She's
15-year-olds, went off on your own. You found some like
No.
shady guy in a back
No.
alley, and you're
Well,
like,
I don't know how we
"Hey,
found
buddy,
him.
want to buy some blue jeans?"
I know. Well, I think Mrs. Strauss might have found somebody on the street.
She
saying,
hooked you
American
up.
blue jeans. I really don't remember. No. And so I think she found a guy on the sidewalk and said American blue jeans or something. So we go to an abandoned church.
Like, do they just hang out? Like
They
like
do.
when
I
we're
was-
outside of an NFL stadium and someone's like, I got two
I got
tickets.
two.
Yeah. Was there people just on
I
the
was there
side of
in
the road? I got
87.
jeans. I
I
got
don't know.
jeans.
I was there for
know.
87 in a coaching thing, and they're outside the hotel.
There's
Okay.
the
Yeah.
crazy Americans or the wealthy Americans. So
Yeah.
off we
Okay.
go to this church. And so Sandy unfortunately went first, fortunate for me. And so he opens up her duffel bag and he pulls out the jeans. Sorry, I hit the mic. And he goes, "These are no good. They're ripped. They're no good." Probably doing a really bad accent.
That's pretty good.
And Ken's very good at accents. and so I'm going, oh, so he stuffs them all in anger back in Sandy's bag and boom, back to her chest with the bag. And I'm going, oh no, mine are ripped too. So mine were all ripped too. So he opens up my bag and he looks and he doesn't pull them out and they look okay. They're all ripped.
All the rips are underneath the carefully placed
Evidently.
folds that you have.
I
in
didn't
there.
do it
Yeah.
on purpose. I didn't know it mattered, but he just took them without pulling them out.
And he gave you some ruples?
He gave
give you a
me
doll.
a silver coin, which is a Russian coin. I still have it somewhere. And those dolls that unscrew.
Yeah,
There's
and
a
there's a little
smaller,
smaller
smaller,
one.
smaller,
There's a
smaller.
word for that. I can't remember what it is. We just call it
Babush.
Russian something
Russian
doll.
unscrewable dolls. I don't know what they are.
Those are funny elite stories. You also, and I'm going to drag you through the mud here, Heidi. I'm sorry, but you have so many, you have a treasure trove of funny stories, and I picked two from your days at Parkettes. The first one that's got to be told is Ponderosa.
Okay.
Okay, and people, you have to understand, back in the 70s, 80s, there was this big eating thing, and the kids got
Nutrition.
on scales and blah
Mhm.
blah
Listen,
blah.
everybody
And
did
when
it.
you went to meets, you went as a team. The parents.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
they were-
parents didn't have control of the kids, so the coach,
Mhm.
the Parkettes would take their
20
15,
elites.
20 elites, and they're going to go to the Kips Invitational or something like that. Then
Mhm.
they'd have dinners together.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're eating at Ponderosa.
So we go every time we're at a Ponderosa. And at Ponderosa, you slide your tray down, you choose your steak, and then they automatically put on a big old baked potato and this giant yeast roll with butter on it. It's like in 4 sections. It's a really big roll. This big, very big roll. And then you get a salad, strawberries or pudding, whatever. Off you go. And we would sit down at this.
Did Bill and Donna let you choose the pudding?
I'm guessing no. I'm guessing
I'm
no.
gonna
I don't
guess no,
really
too.
remember, but I do know that back then they thought that bread was horrible, and I think the potato was also considered horrible, but they knew the protein was good. I think we usually got the strawberries or the Jello. Anyway, and the salad. So we're at this giant table. There's like 15, 20 elites, and Mr. and Mrs. Strauss, probably Robin, maybe John Holman. I'm not sure who else was there, but there was a lot of people at one long table. And Mr. Strauss would get hungry. And so he would go down the trays and take the roll and eat it. Well,
The athletes' roles, because the
yes.
athletes
Well,
knew
not
they
the
weren't.
coaches.
They're not
The,
supposed to
the
eat them.
athletes
We're not supposed to eat the
were not
roll.
allowed to eat the rolls.
So I did a little, I don't know,
Surgery?
surgery. Anyway, I took my little serrated Ponderosa knife that cuts steak, and when he wasn't looking, I just sawed around the bottom of the roll, kind of like Wile E. Coyote.
And
in
you
Instant
took a core
Hold,
sample
and I pulled
from the roll.
whole center of the roll out, and all that's left is this very thin, shiny shell of a top of a roll with nothing inside, nothing on the bottom, and it looks like I haven't touched my roll. And here he comes eating everyone's rolls, and I was ready to go twinkle, twinkle in my pants.
What
'cause here he
happened here?
comes.
Ponderosa, this is an outrage.
Right.
I need to speak to the manager.
You guys have rodents.
Who put this roll on my plate? I demand.
So far. So he keeps eating, and I'm like, how much can this man eat? And finally, he stops like one person, two people across from one another, short of me, and I'm like,
Thank you,
I've been
Jesus.
saved. Yes. So that was one of those funny stories.
All right. The second hilarious Parkettes story
Oh,
helps, like, it paints what I think is a more accurate picture of who Bill is. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I want you to tell the story of the time you walked out.
okay.
What led up to it? Where did you go? And how did you technically escape?
So I blame Robin for this. Robin Netwall was the second female coach, very good coach, beam and floor. Great
Okay.
job.
She's the one that spotted you on the doubles.
Yeah, well, yes. And so we had no pits. And so she told us a story one time, probably within the month, that she had gotten upset and walked out of the gym once. And I filed.
She was a Parkette gymnast herself.
She was a Parkette gymnast before coach. She's been there so long and done a great job. She inspired me, shall we say. And so I filed that in my head that she had walked out. And I was usually very successful on bars. I had my bar routine. And one day I could not make a bar routine. And it was, I think, some basic assignment, 3 or 4 makes of a bar routine. And there was a Parkette picnic. And it was at Tammy Sandercock's house. And they had a pool. And everybody was looking forward to it. And Gigi and I think, or maybe it was Sandy, it was one of the two of them, could not make our bar routines. And I must have done 8, 10 bar routines. I'm bleeding, rips all over the place. And I just kept casting to my handstand, getting a loose lower back and falling over on the handstand. Over and over. It's just insane. And I'd go up there and resolve, I will push up earlier and I will not go over. And boop, I'd go over again. And it kept happening. And I'm thinking, I've got to get out of here. I'm not going to make a bar routine today, and I'm going to come in tomorrow and be fine again. I don't know what's going on. And somebody came, I don't know if it was an alumni or a parent Mr. Strauss hadn't seen in a while, but he walks over to the bleachers where this person that he hadn't seen in a long time is, and I just walk off the bars.
You just said, this is my moment.
This is my time.
I filed that away. I'm
behind him-
out. Screw this.
And mind you, we're on the 2nd and 3rd floor of Symphony Hall in downtown Allentown. And I walked down the stairs. He didn't even see me go. Now, I don't drive. I must be 15 and a half, 16. I don't know. I'm not driving yet. So where am I going? I have no idea. And it's a bad section of Allentown. So what do? I go down on the 2nd floor, which is more of a recreational and beam area. And they had those old wooden cubbies where you had a peg, you hung your coat, and I hid in the cubby. No door. I'm just curled up in a cubby hiding. And so I can
At
hear.
15 years old.
Yeah. And I can hear, I'm small, I can hear everything on the 3rd floor. And I hear Mr. Strauss go, where in the heck is Anderson?
Because you were Anderson, not Heidi.
I was Anderson. And John Crosland, another one of our fantastic coaches, goes, I don't know. And he goes, you go find her. So
And you're going, oh gosh, is there a coat I can throw over me?
my
Like, so no.
gosh, I didn't have anything. I was in a leotard. And so he comes, I hear him come down the stairs and he's walking around this smaller gym area and he's looking for me. And he finally turns and walks over and there I am. I mean, you can just see me.
Curled up in a fetal
Yeah,
position in a
so-
cubby.
Doing the tornado crouch position. You know, I used to hide.
Yeah,
before
yeah.
tornado. And he goes, what are you doing? I go, I'm not going up there. And he goes, you got to go up and finish your workout. And I go, I'm not going. I'm done. And he's like, okay. So I hear him
Yeah,
walk
he doesn't want to go
upstairs.
deliver that message.
Yeah. So he goes upstairs and
Bill, we got a problem.
She says she won't come up. I can hear him. I can hear everything through the ceiling. And he's like, what? And she said she won't come up. And he goes, you mean to tell me? Now, I haven't made a single bar routine all day. I've got 3 or 4. She won't even come up here and make one bar routine. She won't even do one.
Yeah,
bar
he didn't say
routine.
make. She won't do
Yes,
one. Yeah,
exactly.
because
You're right,
you
you're
used
right.
a loophole to get out of this.
Yes. So you won't even do one bar routine. And he goes, you tell her that. And so here he comes, trompety tromp, down the stairs. I hear him, trompety tromp. He says, you got to come up and do a bar routine. And I said, do a bar routine? And he goes, yeah. I go, I'll do a bar routine.
Do I have to make it?
I don't know that I will make a bar routine.
Yep.
And he says, I think that's what it is. And I go, I will go do a bar routine. So I stand up and I walk upstairs and I don't even know if I made eye contact.
Yeah, how
Chalked
can you?
up. And I said, I'm going to make this blasted bar. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I always made my bar routine. And I said, I will make this bar routine. And darn if I didn't go over on my handstand. He goes, finish. And I finished the bar routine. And he goes, let's go to the picnic. And we all left.
So one of the reasons I wanted to tell that story, one, it's funny because you were curled up in a
Hiding.
cubby and whatever. But the Parkettes, they being like Bill and Donna, have this reputation of being sort of hard in the industry. And some of it is earned. Some of it is a little unfair because they were tricked into doing that CNN special when that book, Pretty Girls in Tiny Boxes, came out. They didn't do themselves any favors on there, but they aren't what was portrayed there. And later, much later, I became friends with Bill. I had a car that he really liked, and we talked about it, took him for a little ride in and whatever. And because we hung out at these camps together, and you and I are such good friends, at some point, your name came up. And he goes, oh, that Anderson. Did I ever tell you the Burger King story? I was like, well, I got a feeling you're about to. And he said something to the effect of you always having your own ideas about what you should and shouldn't do. And he said, and I just looked at her and said, if you want it your way, Anderson, go to Burger King. Otherwise, at Parkettes, you do it our way. And he says that not like disgusted or angry or whatever. He says it with like a genuine fondness for Heidi. So for all the people that think, oh, Parkettes, hard guys or whatever, I don't buy into that, man. I don't buy into that. Like he genuinely cares for you to this day and thinks very fondly of the kid who stood up to him constantly, left the gym and hid in a cubby, right? Like that drilled holes in the bottom of rolls at Ponderosa. Because screw this stupid rule. I'm eating a roll.
Yes. Yes. I once pinned Mrs. Strauss' bras to the bulletin board at Parkette Camp. That's a new one.
That's a new one.
It was a prank. We
Well,
just snuck in a room and put her bras up.
We
on
got
the
a few
bulletin board.
minutes. First of all, how in the world did you find Donna's bras? Like, are they just laying around? Well, hey, somebody go over to Beam and get me Donna's bra. Like, what happened?
No, we were at Parkette Camp in Allentown College, and we stayed in the dorms, and so did the coaches. And none of the rooms evidently were locked, I guess. And we went into her room and stole her bras and pinned them up on the bulletin board. My friend Doreen and I did this. And then we went.
And did everybody know they were Donna's because she wrote in magic marker, like on the tag, Donna's Strauss?
No.
I mean, she was going to camp. You don't want to get your underwear mixed up.
No. And then we took, I think it was
What about
crackers.
the ice box? The ice, something in the
Iceman? Nah.
No.
And so we took, I think it was saltine crackers and crumbled them up and put them in John Crosland and John Holman's bed. And Mrs. Strauss never said anything. They just disappeared and went back in her drawer. But John Crosland took an entire wastebasket of water and came into our room. I think we were sleeping and said he thought it was pretzels in his bed. I think it was crackers. And said, "So you like pretzels, do you?" And dumped the whole trash can on us in bed. And it was me. And Doreen had done it too. And I got all the water. So I wasn't happy about that.
Dang.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this seems like a perfect point for us to conclude part 1 of this episode. For my viewers at home, this is the Stick the Landing podcast, episode 5. What potential gymnastics business owners need to know. To learn more about how Iron Business Solutions can help your gymnastics business mirror your vision now and into the future, check us out on the web and social media. Links in the description. Part 2 of this episode is set to air next week. Until then, we'll have stories to tell and solutions to deliver. See you all next week for part 2. Hey, if you enjoy this podcast, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media and leave us a review. Links in the description.